Welcome to the Release Your Blocks podcast. I am your host, Victoria Bond. I am a spiritual empowerment coach. I help teach others to show up to their potency so they can fulfill their mission here on earth. I am so glad you are here. And if you are interested in becoming a medium, if you're interested in becoming a life coach, or if you're interested in shifting your life from the 3D to live more in the 5D reality, then check me out, book a clarity call, and let's get chatting. Okay, guys, so welcome to today's class. My friend Wayne Dellow is here, and we are going to be diving into DISC. So this is a bit different to what we usually do. So we're not going to get into meditation today. We're going to dive straight into this because there is so much to learn about this. And the truth is, there's just so many layers and levels. I've actually been experimenting with DISC for the last year and a half, as so many of you may already know, because I've used it in my selling, I've used it in my coaching, and although I'm not a DISC expert at all, I've kind of roughly studied it and utilized it and found it extremely beneficial. So we do have an expert here today. So welcome, Wayne, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, good as gold. Thanks, Victoria.
It is so good to have you here. And, you know, I have actually had a session with Wayne. Now, we kind of got a bit carried away and we spent like 3 hours talking about it. So I was a very, very lucky girl. So we've gone through everything. Basically, DISC is a personality profiling system. And there is 4 different profiles. So there's a D, I, S, and C, which Wayne will explain what those are. And I just want to, those of you who are actually on the camera, show you how much Wayne actually did for me. There is like copious amounts of paper here. And he even did a special one where he compared me to somebody else, which was so good because I could actually see my strengths and weaknesses and all of that stuff. And I am personally going to get one done with me and my husband because Wayne, I think your expertise is working in businesses. Is that correct?
Mostly working with businesses, but it all comes down to people anyway. So it's just working with the people within the business to help grow the businesses.
Beautiful. Awesome. So can you give us a little bit of a background of like who you are and what got you into learning about this?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in the dairy industry all around Australia and New Zealand. Sold some software into the United States for a while. Saw the same thing done a lot of different ways, and then after getting out of the dairy industry, opened a retail shop. And in the retail shop, we actually had two business coaches. The first one was a paint by number sort of guy, and we wanted some foot traffic, and he said, yes, marketing's on page 197. We'll get there in 3 months' time. He didn't listen to what we were after, and so we lost faith in him pretty quick. The second one was a company who sort of said, where do you want to be in 10 years? Now let's figure out a plan. And that company I ended up buying into as a franchisee about 18 years ago. And one of the things that we did use Extended DISC for was to understand our clients so that we could help coach them in a style that suited them. Everybody hears things differently. Everybody sees things differently. And if I try to give like too much information for the likes of you, Victoria, that's not going to work the best. We've got to do things fairly fast paced with you. Big picture's good, rapid change, short and sharp, that suits nicely. Having to go through all the processes, all the hoops, all the rules and regulations will bore you stupid. Mm-hmm. So part of that is actually sort of going, this is how I got into the Extended DISC, the profiling stuff. And from there, it's just grown and grown. And this year, my target is actually to help 500 individuals to actually achieve, understand who they are and actually grow themselves. That's a number that's way in advance of anything I've done before, mainly because I'm now, the coaching part is secondary. The profiling stuff is primary for me, and it's just something I get an absolute kick out of, as you would have seen on Thursday.
It was awesome. It was so awesome. And I sat there, and even though I had learned about DISC before, and it's actually in my program, Release Your Blocks, I talk about it in the Human Code of Behavior. It's really, really interesting because I had so many light bulb moments where I was like, oh my God, I am not playing up to my strengths, to my full capacities. And having that awareness of where I'm dulling myself because I feel like I may be too much for others was a real light bulb moment. So
Yeah.
would you be able to tell us? He's laughing the whole time. He was like, oh my goodness, you're so intense. But could you go through the actual disc and the meanings for it if you
Yeah,
feel
sure.
good to that?
So there is four main quadrants, and none of this is new. Socrates was doing this a couple of thousand years ago, so it's just been improved over a period of time. The main one of the quadrants is being a D, the dominant character. These people start stuff. They like to be in control. They want to do things in a hurry. They're very, very good at challenging the status quo. They are always right. Just ask them. Right? Isn't that right, Victoria?
I'm always right. Leah, don't nod at me.
The other one of the other ones is the influencer. So these are the people that can sell ice to Eskimos. In some language, they are the peacocks. So they are also very very good at starting new stuff. Neither the D's or the I's are good at finishing things, but they do challenge the status quo with everything that they actually do. The difference between the I and the D is the D is very task orientated and the I is very people orientated. So the I's do like to be the center of attention. And yeah, in some respects, they're a little bit of a show pony. Now I have 50% of that. So some of me loves being the center of attention. The other 50% of me is the S quadrant, which is the stable, thorough, patient, nurturing type. That particular part of me doesn't like the spotlight. So if you break the trust of an S-type personality, then getting that back again is actually really difficult. So part of me loves, woohoo, look at me, here I am. And the other part is like, yeah, okay, it's all good now, you can stop looking at me. So my internal conflict is I want to do everything to help people, but it's a struggle for me to say no occasionally. I've had to be I'm very diplomatic, see things from both sides, all that sort of stuff. The final quadrant is the compliance, the detail, the analytical person. Now, these guys are the people that I struggle with the most, and it's mainly because they deal in absolutes. So as a classic example, somebody who's measuring something out, 9.99 grams is not 10. Now, for me, it's like, it's roughly 10, it's close enough, it's good enough. But for an analytical person, it's not. So if I'm giving instructions to a detailed person, typically I cannot give enough instructions on the level that they require. Now, there is no right or wrong profiling type, but it just means it takes a lot of more energy or effort for us to play in a place which is not natural to us. So for me, doing detail, can I do it? Yes. Am I good at doing it? Absolutely not. I'll procrastinate about it. I'll leave it to the last minute. But in the business world, or even in our personal lives, it's easier for us to get somebody in, bring them in like an impact player to actually do that detail for us. For me, dealing with wanting to make those really tough decisions, that's something that, Victoria, you're probably quite good at. We get some loose information about some stuff, make a decision, and we go forward. That sort of thing for me isn't the easiest either. So if I'm looking at growing my business in a hurry and I need somebody to just take off and do some stuff, I employ somebody like you. I need to give you some freedom to do, I'll give you roughly, this is what we want, but then let you have the freedom to go and do it. Because if I tell you exactly what you have to do and where you have to sit and what you're going to be doing, that relationship's not going to last very long. The standard disc has only got the 4 quadrants. The stuff that I showed Victoria is broken into 160 variations of that. And so this is where it becomes a little bit more complicated. If we were purely one of those profiles, it would be easier for us to go, well, that person's an eye or a peacock. This is what they like, and therefore everybody sits like that. But the reality is there are small incremental changes, and within Victoria's, we have 10% of an S, which is her internal handbrake, who's stopping that dominant person who wants to go out and slay the world, take over as she can, as fast as possible. Doesn't want to worry about roadblocks until we get there. But I guarantee there's some other people on the call right now who will prefer to do all the planning before they start doing some things. So it's all about making sure we understand the people that we work with, who we associate with either at work or even at home, and then being able to talk in their language or some compromise. And the challenge for all of us is that opposites do attract. So there's always a part that our other half has that subconsciously we like to actually be able to do some of that. And then, of course, it can be quite annoying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my husband drives me nuts, but I drive him nuts probably 10 times more. So this disc stuff, like I have been applying a little bit, but my dominant energy is 75%. Now, I knew I was a D. I thought I was a DI. So D being dominant, I being, what is it, the initiator? Is that what it's called?
The initiator or the influencer. Yep.
Influencer. The S being kind of like that mother energy, and the C. And what I love when I teach a little bit about disc is also what people wear. Like, I'm a female, I love fashion. So a D is kind of like today I wear bold lipstick, my hair's pink, I'm wearing like a black dress. Or yesterday I wore bright yellow, and with pink hair, and I just didn't care. I wore my boots and off I went. Now, and I might wear that too because they love fun, they love patterns and all that type of stuff. An S would be like, whoa, probably a little bit too bright, and wearing maybe like more soft pastels and like kind of pretty patterns. And then I don't know what a C would wear. I don't know, because I've got no C in me.
You quite often find it's really fascinating. The C's, they're either very, very particular because they're very they like perfection. So they're very particular about what they want to wear, and it absolutely must color coordinate, or they don't have a clue. So it's one of the two. There's a guy in New Plymouth that I did some work with years ago who was a very, very high C, who absolute analytical person, and he was saying that his wardrobe is color coordinated from the darks to the lights, and even his so from his suits, dark suits, all the way down to light suits, and his shirts from darks to lights, and everything. Nobody else could do his ironing because it had to be absolutely immaculate. His underpants and his socks were, he was telling us all this sort of stuff, and we were all just falling about laughing because we sort of thought, well, what really is this?
How do you have a life? Who gets time? I don't even own an iron. I would rather throw this jacket away when it gets wrinkly. I'll throw it away. I won't iron it. Or I'll put it in the dryer and hope it doesn't shrink. I don't iron. I won't iron. And it's quite funny. Like, I never would it took me until 3 years ago to use a computer. 3 years ago. Tina's laughing because Tina is always messaging me going, I need to get my ironing done. And I'm like, how? Why? No, just throw it away or hire someone. And what I love what you're saying, because like all these different quadrants, they're all very much required. Leah's like, I'm with you, Vic. Yeah. And I would say Leah would be a high I with some S, like maybe like a 50-50. She's just so exuberant and just amazing. But my husband is the complete opposite to me. So I would say I only iron shirts for Kyron so he doesn't look like no one owns him. That's a good strategy. I like that. So my husband, I've said this quite a few times, I would say, I can't say for sure because I haven't done this. Like, I'm not an expert like Wayne, but I would be guessing that my husband would be like a C and an S. And it was really interesting when Wayne was doing this for me, because we're just talking away and I'm just doing my thing. And my husband goes, see you later. I'm going to go hunting for a few days now. And off he goes. And he goes to go hunting. And I was like, yeah, bye. And he walked off and I didn't even think about it. And then 10 minutes later, he comes in and goes, babe, do you know where my beanie is? I was like, I don't know, like check in the cupboard. Bye. And then we kept talking. And then about 5 minutes later, he comes in again and he goes, I'm sorry. In case I get shot and die, that was his excuse. I just have to come in and I just have to give you a kiss goodbye or a cuddle. And I went, okay, then Luke. So he comes in, gives me a cuddle, and then off he went. And I stopped, and Wayne cracked up laughing because he's just like, oh my God, can you see the difference? Like, I was just like, goodbye. And he was like, well, you kind of just like, off you go. Are you still already here? And I was like, yes. I was like, what the fuck are you still doing here? Like, you said you were gone 15 minutes ago. You'd be halfway on your trip. But that's what I'm like, I'm just like, and it doesn't mean I'm heartless or cold or anything, but I was like, I'll see you in a few days. Go have fun. And he was quite emotional. He was like, I've got to say goodbye to you. I don't want to interrupt. And he comes over like, goodbye. So, you know, I think being in business as well and being able to outsource and knowing your strengths is fantastic. Like for me, I'm not going to do those details. I will get massive results for people if they do what I tell them to do with actions and take the massive leap. But I'm 75% D. So if my coach tells me to jump, I literally go jump. Like, you know how they told you can do anything you want to do when you're growing up? I took that so literally that I did try to fly because they tell me I can fly. So I tried to fly and I jumped off a desk and it didn't work very well. But I mean, you tell me that I can do anything, I will literally try it. So yeah, it is absolutely fascinating. So is most people usually a mixture of all of them?
Yeah, like for you, it doesn't mean like because you don't have any natural compliance or the details, so it doesn't mean you can't do it. It just takes effort and energy. So that's all it is. We've got other people on the call here who will be a little bit more risk averse than you. So they will take a risk as long as they've thought about it for a while or they've done some research. So we can all say we will take a risk. I've had somebody tell me that they're going to buy a new car as soon as they have actually thought about it for about a year. So that's not making a quick decision, especially not in your world, Victoria, where you sort of go, well, there's something I like, I'm just going to have it, and we'll deal with the consequences afterwards. More than likely, you're a person who will look at something, spend the money, and then figure out a way to pay for it. And you've got other people in the group who will save the money before they go and pay for something. You get two people like that in a relationship, of course, we're going to have some issues. I've got another client of mine he's 50-50 DI and she's roughly 50-50 SC. So they get that my food bag thing. If he gets access to it first, he doesn't follow the rules. He doesn't follow the process. He just looks in the box and he goes, oh, shit, these things look good. And he pulls out whatever he wants and creates this really nice dinner. By the time it gets to the last day, she cannot make anything that's supposed to be there because half the stuff's gone for different things that he's created. So when they finally figured out that, like she just thought he was doing this to purposely annoy her. It had nothing to do with that whatsoever. He's just going, oh, this looks interesting. Let's do this. He wouldn't follow a recipe. There was just shit in the box he was going to use. So it's fascinating.
I've got to say, I hate HelloFresh. I hate my food box. All those things. I bought it so my husband could start cooking and he loved it. But I tell you what, cooking a meal for like 30 minutes, like, no, thank you. Following a recipe, it's like painful. It's like pulling teeth. Even though it's very, very simple to do, I'm like, why would I want to do that? Like, who created this? Now, I'll buy it if my husband's going to cook all week, but like, it's the same thing like with clothes. This is probably a telltale sign of what you are, like kind of thing is who likes to figure out what they're going to wear the next day? Not me, because I will change my mind as soon as I wake up.
Yeah, there are. You're going to have people on the call here who will plan their meals for the entire week on the Sunday, right? And those people, if somebody comes and goes, surprise, I've brought somebody home from dinner, they will panic a bit because it's like, oh, that wasn't part of the plan. You're much more likely to do that to your hubby, I would imagine, of going, go Tara. I don't plan anything in advance. I will drive people batshit all the time. In fact, my ex-wife was, there might be a reason why I've got an ex-wife. She was 100% of the detail person, and I organised a mystery weekend away. So for somebody who likes structure and plans and knowing what's coming up, going out, like for me, sort of saying, hey, it's mystery weekend, that all I did was create anxiety for her. And at that stage, I didn't actually understand what I was doing. When I go to a restaurant, I don't look at the menu. So one of the things that I do when I go to a restaurant, I could walk down the street, just walk into any restaurant at all, and say to the person who's serving me, what would you eat? I'll have that. Now, there's lots of people that will need to study what restaurant they want to go to. They will want to have a look at the menu before they even get there, all that sort of stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if they were wanting me to actually plan their night out for them, yeah, that's not going to go the best. And if it's too structured, a plan or a holiday or a dinner for me, that's not, where's the spontaneity? So it's about understanding who each other is and then compromising for that.
Yeah, one of my favorites.
Same thing applies with children as well, Victoria. So our children, sometimes we'll actually sort of go, well, where did that bloody child come from? It's got, I haven't got a clue. And it's simply, there are ways that we can actually identify who different people are, how to talk with them, how to get them to do things properly for our world. But there are other times where, especially with the younger children, we actually have to modify our behaviour and our communication styles that suits them.
And we should never treat two children the same. I mean, my children, I will yell at my son and then he just yells back, and we're literally talking, but we're yelling. We're both very loud. And it's like, oh, this is funny. But then with my daughter, I said to her, no, don't do that. I said something today slightly louder, and she was really upset for ages. I was like, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I was just being me. So I have to be very aware. I'd say she's more of an S. What I also use in my coaching is knowing that the S's and the C's are past based. And I've had one-to-one clients that are S's and C's, and I know that I have to give the C's more time to process. Now, they are detail orientated and I'm not. So of course, I'm kind of pushing for them to actually just take control and to speed up their thinking really and take the plunge. Otherwise they may never. And that's what I find with some people, and with the S's as well, is they don't want to disappoint anyone. Even in narcissistic relationships, they don't want to leave the narcissist because of I think we talked about this, Wayne, because they may feel like they're a failure, or they let down the relationship, or they let down the people. So they are past based, and the D and the I is more future based. So I find that absolutely interesting. So if I talk to any of my D or I clients, even people in my coaching groups, I throw everything at them really, really fast. And it's not until they start chunking out that I start slowing down, because I can see them chunking out. But I love it when I get someone like me, because I just throw it. They grab whatever they can and they go, I'll just watch the replay to pick up anything that I didn't pick up on. Where I know if I'm talking to an S, I actually slow down how I'm talking. I come from more of I think I have 15% S, 10% I, and 75% D. So then I actually open my heart and come from how are you feeling? And so could you talk to us a little bit about the questions? So when we've got our clients and when we're doing kind of, I suppose, putting our offers out and talking on our socials and stuff like that, I know you were saying there's different ways of asking questions.
Yep. And I think that the single biggest thing that we have to do as individuals is be true to ourselves. And that's the one thing I want everybody to look at. If you all try to be like Victoria, that's going to be quite challenging. And you need to be yourself. So if it works being all bubbly and bouncy and all over the place like that, then do that. But if it's not, then
I'll take that as a compliment.
Absolutely. Energizer Bunny on steroids.
I just had to sleep before the call, so not always.
But the big thing I think is for everybody is to actually be true to themselves. I did an article on LinkedIn a little while ago, and I was really, because I do take things a little bit personally, and I didn't want people reacting and sort of saying negative things about the article that I wrote. I really procrastinated about it for quite a long time until I started the phrase, in my experience. The minute I wrote in my experience, all of a sudden nobody could question anything about it because they didn't know what my experience was. If I came from a pure fact-based thing, then people could. So the people who are much more people orientated and don't want to let people down, it is very much about, in my experience, this is how I have found it. For the more analytical people, it's like, here's the data, show the data. This is the bits and pieces that's proven. That makes a lot more sense. The S's typically they can only typically sell products or services that they absolutely believe in. They don't like new to market stuff. It's much more mature. So being able to have something that everybody is using is much easier for them to actually to sell. So if everybody's done it, then it's safe. The eyes are much more likely to looking at new to market. This is really interesting stuff. This is like everybody would love you if you did this. The D's are a little bit more about going, you will be a winner if like if you do it this way, then you'll be head of the pack. The C-type personalities are going to be this is the data. The data shows us this is to be the best way, the most accurate way, the quality sort of stuff. So whatever it's going to be for you as an individual, it's about tailoring it as suits yourself so that you're actually being true to yourself, and then it's much easier to sell. Now, I am passionate about what I do, and I'm passionate about this product. But one of the ways that I sell is actually is to educate people and let people buy. So rather than me sell to people, I would much prefer people to buy from me. And so that is a very, very different style than Victoria's might be much more about, here's some stuff. Well, you nodded and you smiled. So here's a pen, press hard. The third copy is yours. Got the sale. That's fine. But
that's the thing, like, where are we not functioning from what we truly are? Because when we had our session, what Wayne actually does in these reports is he does what people, because there's a ton of questions that you ask. It takes only about 10 minutes, but you do it at a speedy time frame. And he did 2 charts, and one is how people perceive me or you, whoever's getting the chart done, and what I really am naturally. The interesting thing, and you guys may pick this up about me or not, is that I was very high I, and then I was a dominant. So I've been showing up on social media as, hello, how's it going? Go, go, go. Like, really, really, not wanting to be boring or scary as a dominant energy, basically. And I'm showing up as something that I am. There's definitely a part of that in me, but I'm wondering why I get tired. Because if I'm showing up and I'm doing an hour card reading, or if I'm doing sales calls, and I'm a spiritual empowerment coach, right? So I'm like, believe in you, believe in you, believe in you. And I'm yelling at people, believe in yourself, because I can see their potential. But the problem with that is I'm exhausted afterwards, because my natural state is really like, hey, do you want to do this thing? Because I believe in you. Do you believe in you? Let's fucking go. So if I said that, I would have saved a hell of a lot of time on sales calls. And I would have actually weaved out people that, don't align with that. So then I could actually just do it with ease, rather than me going, come on, come on, come on. Like everything is a party. So I used to use alcohol so I could get to that high state and be fun. But now I don't need alcohol. I just do it. So I find that really interesting, that we're not what we think we are as well sometimes.
And that's, it is true in every part of our lives. Like we put on a mask when we go to work at times. We put on a mask when we're around some of our friends. And that there are certain people or certain tasks that we do that they drain us of energy. There are other people that we hang around with, or other things that we do, and they just fill our tank up, and that's just so much fun. Part of this is to actually work out what is it that drains us and what is it that fills us. And if we have to go, like there's some people that I see on a regular basis, and I know they drain me, so I have to prepare myself very differently than if I was going to come and hang out with Victoria, because it's just like there's one thing I can guarantee with having a conversation with you, Vic, is it's never going to go in a straight line. We're going to talk about all sorts of random shit, and it's just going to be fun. And
it's not going to be fluffy. It's going to be like, can we just get to like the grit and go deep, really deep? I think I was telling you about spirit and how to read and notice spirit. Like, it's just one of those things that's really, really cool. So one interesting thing as well is, before I learned about DISC, which was about a year ago, and now I've done a real, deep dive into it, is that I literally thought that everybody was similar. So if people weren't doing things or reacting to things or giving back to me like I was giving to them, I was getting deeply disappointed. Now, the interesting thing I've noticed about DISC as well is I'm also into human design, and everything that Wayne was telling me about my DISC was actually mirroring the human design that I am, the projector. So I find that is actually fascinating, that these are all scientifically based and they all intermix with each other as well. And that's a wrap for today. Thank you so much for joining the Release Your Blocks podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, I would love to hear from you. So please leave a review and tell me what your favorite takeaway from today was. There is so much more from where this came from. You can also find me at Holistic Energy Shifting on Facebook, where you can find more content, more coaching, and more guidance. Have a grand and glorious day, and I'll see you next time.